Now, in order for me to show you these extension tubes on that camera, I have to use this camera. I kind of apologize here. It actually does a pretty good job, except that the focusing wanders in and out, and the sound isn't all that great. So I'm going to use this to sync in later the sound. And I'm going to use this lens, because this is the lens that I use for my close-up work. And it does a wonderful job, and I'm really hoping that it's going to do really well with these extension tubes. So here we go. Well, as you can see, I'm still able to use my good camera for the unboxing of the extension tubes here. Now, this is actually the first time I've taken these out. Okay, thank you for purchasing. Well, you're welcome. Now, the reason I had to buy these extension tubes is because my camera has these connections here so that I can adjust the aperture. Otherwise, I can't adjust the aperture on this lens. There's no outside aperture ring or anything. So I had to spend a little extra to get extension tubes that would have the contacts. Yeah, I think this will be okay. Okay, what you're going to get to see here is the actual first time. So if it looks like I don't know what I'm doing, it's possibly because I've never done this before with these extension tubes, so I'm not exactly sure. Now, normally I'd line this little white dot up with this, and it should line everything up just right. Well, okay, so now I know how it goes. Okay, I want to show you what I've discovered here. This little white dot, that's normally what you'd line up with the white dot here to put the lens on. What you have to do is ignore these white dots here when you're putting the lens on, and use these little white squares. I found that if I line the white square up with the white dot here, there, it goes in like that. And then the white dots are lined up with that white dot. It's kind of a, I don't know, I think they probably could have done a better job there and tried to keep this adapter the same as the Nikon lenses that it's supposed to work with. Anyway, as long as I know, it's okay. Now, the little instruction pamphlet that came with these extension tubes, it talks about an arrow, and you line the arrow up with the dot on the camera body. But I can't find an arrow anywhere on these extension tubes. I think they meant the little white box. Okay, my plan is to check this lens and have the macro lens set at its closest focusing distance and just see here what is the area that it is actually focusing on. So, okay, that's 0. So it's about 6.5 inches wide, which is, not very much. And I'll try it with this lens, with the macro lens, and then later I'm going to try the normal 50mm and see if there's any difference. Maybe what I should do right now is just stop it down and see if it's going to get any sharper here. Theoretically it should. Okay, so we're at f16, 2000 ISO, And this is incredibly sharp right now. Well, you should be able to see that the 50mm lens does not make a very good close-up lens. Okay. It is sharp in the center, really bad on the edges. Now, if I stop it down, it'll get better. But I won't be using this for close-ups. The macro lens does a beautiful job. And it's a lot closer. Here we are at 0, and here we're almost at 9/10 of an inch. Whereas the macro lens was about here. And I could be a lot further away from the subject. Well, here we got the macro lens on without the extension tubes. And you can see there's quite a difference here. There's the 0 line, and we're at about 1.2. With the extension tubes, we're almost twice as close. Maybe I'll stop it down a little bit, see if it'll get a little sharper. F16. I don't see any difference on the screen. Maybe I'll be able to see a difference on the computer. Okay, some of you will remember the ladybug that went to church. Well, you all know how small this is. Just going to stop it down here. Stop it down as far as it'll go. Okay, F57. You notice my ISO has jumped right up to 6400. But this camera does a real good job at high ISO. So that's okay, especially on video. And we'll see if we can turn it over here. Now, very carefully here. Try and keep it in the field of view here. Now this ladybug has long since gone to be with the dearly departed. You know, I gotta get a microscope. A microscope with an attachment so that I can put my camera on it. Okay, let's turn him back over. Oh, I said him, I meant her. It's hard to get her to pose for a smile here. Well, anyway, you get the idea. You can also tell by going by the relationship of the pencil. Like you can tell that this magnification is really good. That's about as good as you're going to want to get. Now, I know that Canon does make a lens that will go a little closer, and you don't need any extension tubes, but it won't work on my Nikon. I don't know why Nikon doesn't make one. Anyway. Well, I guess the bottom line is it works. Or they work, because there's 3 of them. And at least it works really, really well with this macro lens. And would I recommend it to a friend? Well, if the friend only had a normal lens, I would kind of be leery, because as you saw, the edge sharpness was impossible at the same time as the center sharpness, as long as you had the lens opened up all the way to f1.4. If you closed it right down as far as it would go, you had reasonable sharpness. But with this lens, it was sharp no matter what f-stop you had it set at. And of course, cranking it right up to f57, as you saw with the ladybug, I was able to really increase the depth of field. So, would I recommend it to a friend? Well, if he's got a lens like this, yep, get it. Works good. At least so far. The only thing I kind of don't like is it's mostly plastic. And I'm old school. I like metal. Now I know that even this lens has a lot of plastic. Now this is what I'm talking about here. I think that had it been made entirely of metal, it wouldn't be as floppy or flimsy. I can tell that I'm going to have to be really careful here when I'm using it. Another thing that I'm not too pleased about, and yet I don't think it really affects anything, it just doesn't feel quality. Sort of not gritty, but it's just not smooth. But then again, I'm old school. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Now here's something that you should know, and that is that doing close-up work is not new to me. This picture of the peanut and the penny I took late in 1964. That's just over 50 years ago. And I really enjoyed photography back in those days. You know what? I think possibly I'm trying to bring back my youth here or something. Anyway, I'm having a good time with it.